Hello everyone, it's Paola and today I'm going to recommend you 3 books with autism representation by Own Voices authors. This is of course in honor of Bex's Autistic Pride Readathon. This readathon started on April 1st and it will go all the way through April 30th, as April is Autism Acceptance Month. I will redo the little bingo card. I will also put it right here so that you can see it. The first slot goes Own Voices Representation, then we have Science Fiction or Fantasy, next up we have Romance, then we have Indie or Self-Published, another slot says Queer Author or Representation, the next one is by an autistic author but without autistic representation, a short story or novella, a contemporary book, and an author of color. The first book that I want to recommend is The State of Grace by Rachel Lucas, and I am going to read you the synopsis on Goodreads so that you can have a better idea of what it is about. Sometimes I feel like everyone else was handed a copy of The Rules for Life and mine got lost. Grace has Asperger's and her own way of looking at the world. She's got a horse and a best friend who understands her, and that's pretty much all she needs. But when Grace kisses Gabe and things start to change at home, the world doesn't make much sense to her anymore. Suddenly, everything threatens to fall apart and it's up to Grace to fix it on her own. This book is also Own Voices. The next book that I want to recommend is A Girl Like Her by Talia Hibbert. This is the first book in a series called Ravenswood. It takes place in this town called Ravenswood, and it is a very, very homey romance book about a girl who just exited a very toxic and abusive relationship, and she is beginning to have feelings for her neighbor who is a chef and he's also very hot. This is also Own Voices representation, and Talia Hibbert has written other books that don't feature autism representation, so if you're looking to fill in the slot for just the autistic author that doesn't write about autism representation, you can definitely check that out with Talia Hibbert's other books. I would personally recommend Merry Inkmas, even though it's a little early to think about Christmas. And the rest of the Ravenswood series, or what I have read, they are not heavy on the sexual content, so if you're not really into sex scenes, Talia Hibbert is the author for you, specifically the Ravenswood series. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's a really, really sweet book, and I like that it contains trigger warnings for the kinds of words that are used. Obviously trigger warnings for domestic verbal abuse. Yeah, it comes up quite often, so if you're sensitive to that, please be careful. And lastly, the third book that I want to recommend is my favorite book that I read in 2019, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This one is about Stella, who after having an uncomfortable sexual encounter with one of her co-workers, he turns to her and says that she should relax and let loose a little bit more so that she can be a little bit more fun, and she decides to do exactly that. So she hires an escort called Michael, and he is going to teach her all about relationships and sex. And this book is really steamy. I've read steamier books than this, but this is definitely out there with the sex scenes. There are a lot of close calls. I don't know how to describe it, but there are scenes where they are naked and they're not having sex, but you know, they're close to having sex. So yeah, if sexual content makes you uncomfortable, if you are not really interested in reading books with sex scenes, I would stay away from this one. But if you like romances, if you are looking for autism representation, and if you are looking for sexy times, definitely check this one out. Other than that, the 2 books that I'm reading are The Bright Test, also by Helen Huang. This one features one of the side characters' cousins, or one of the side characters' friends, that were featured in The Kiss Quotient. And I'm also reading Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. I think this one was quite popular in 2016, maybe 2017, and I don't really remember what it is about, but I do distinctly remember that it is set during like Comic-Con, and it's about a bunch of friends going to Comic-Con and, you know, kind of geeking out. I'm very excited. I love things that center fangirl culture, and I think this one will be just right up my alley. Let me know in the comments below if you are participating in Bex's readathon. If you're not, why? You should definitely do that. Don't forget to check out the website that I'm linking down below. It is Bex's website, and she has a ton of recommendations, so you have no excuse. Also remember that Scribd is currently having the free 3-day trial without having to use your credit card. Definitely take advantage of those two things. And if you haven't already and you'd like to, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!